the problem at that building. And so we have had some discussion with the landlord, and they're aware of this issue as well. We're exploring options to determine whether we will ever return to that site, but for now, there's only 71 days left until school starts. And so our REN program, our REN school will continue next fall. And we're looking at an alternative site that has yet to be determined. We're consulting with the UWRF. We're hoping that we can get into Hagstead. We're waiting to get back some information from the university regarding what those rental fees would be and some other details we need to iron out. And then obviously a long-term solution for our REN facility needs are also being considered, and the board will have more conversation about that moving forward. We will continue to provide updates to the Finance and Facility Committee and to the full board as we work through this process.
Thank you. All right, we also have an administrative report. Jennifer Peterson is going to talk about summer school.
Yes, just wanted to provide you a quick update. I think Aaron provided you with copies as well. Really just an updated memo to let you know that summer school is off and running. We are in our second full week that started today. Summer school is held at Greenwood Elementary, Meyer Middle School, and we do have credit recovery and speed and strength here at the high school. You can kind of see numbers. We ended up around 250 students at the elementary and middle grades going into high school credit recovery. We have 30 students at the middle school, pre-6 through pre-9, as well as 19 students that are currently participating in the credit recovery. Almost 70 students are participating in the middle school musical, so that is going to be held a little bit later this week. So if you didn't see that in the journal or on Facebook, I hope that you can all come to that. Just really wanted to provide you with an update where we're at. So far it's going very smoothly, and we're very happy with having all our kids in summer school this year.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're glad that it's off to a good start. That's good for our families.
Just a couple questions, Jennifer. If this is this any significant change from what you had told us in May that was coming? I mean, any fewer or more?
There's probably about a 15% reduction from the earlier numbers. A lot of that is just families. We had a couple families that said we don't really want to go anymore when we changed our policy at the beginning of June. But really, I only had 2 families that indicated that specifically. We typically have families that register the 1st of March and then change their family summer plans.
Sure.
Or we have a few students that are going to join us in the second term only because they had family conflicts this first term. So it was a slight decline, but it wasn't anything that we haven't seen almost any other year.
Okay.
And so to be clear, you would not say that we heard a significant number of parents say that they did not want to send their son or daughter to summer school because of our optional mask policy, correct?
I'm aware of 2 families, and that was Nancy and Amanda as well. So, and unless families didn't disclose that and said that there were other reasons, and those were the 2 that had indicated that was what the reason was.
Okay. And just my second comment is, because we're meeting, the Ed Programs Committee meeting is at Greenwood next month, and Nate is, and that's where the elementary summer school is, and Nate's there. Maybe we can get another update just on how it's going as he's showing us around the building. Maybe he can tell us some of the things that are going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Thanks, Stacey.
Anything else about summer school? Okay, we have an EID committee update, and Jamie is going to bring
I'm
that
just
to us.
briefly going to mention that sometime late July, I don't believe the date has been determined yet, but there will be an EID meeting, just basically to kind of reset our goals for the upcoming school year 21-22.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on, and we have action items. We have meeting minutes from the May 17th regular Board of Education meeting. We have minutes from the May 24th special Board of Education meeting. We also have minutes from the May 27th Special Board of Education meeting, and again, we met on June 7th, and we have meeting minutes for that meeting as well. We have bills that have been submitted for payment, as well as recommendations regarding employment. So at this point, is there a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented? I neglected to say one thing, and that's that the minutes were updated this afternoon, just a couple clarifications. So if you looked at them earlier than 3 o'clock or something around that neighborhood, you might want to look at them again.
Is there a specific one that was updated, or all, or?
It was the one for May 27th,
Okay.
and the 17th had just a very slight adjustment, all related to the public comment time.
Okay.
So we were just clarifying.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Todd. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion, questions, or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion is carried. One of our responsibilities is to approve 6630 agreements. These are agreements that bring us into partnerships with other districts. This is a really important opportunity for our district because it means that we're able to provide opportunities for our students that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do by ourselves. So this is, I always like to say this, when we do our annual board evaluation and we talk about partnerships and entering into cooperative agreements, this is an example of that kind of work. So at this point, we have two 6630 agreements. The first one is between with River Falls, Prescott, and the St. Croix Central School Districts. That we will be sharing a teacher for students who are hearing impaired. We also have an agreement then with Prescott to continue our Project Search program. Jamie, do you have any background beyond what's already in our board book?
Just a reminder, Project Search is a collaborative we have with a local hospital where some of our students have career-related experiences there. And I think the hearing impaired agreement is self-explanatory.
Stacy, I'll move that we adopt and approve both of those agreements.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Thank you, Bob.
It's just a great example of how we can work with other districts and we don't try and do all this ourselves. That also allows us to have a better salary because they're full-time positions and all of that. I think we know that, but I think it's good to say it. Yeah.
Better qualified individuals, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
And the work that is accomplished during Project Search is really remarkable. It's attending their graduation program to be able to have a review of the year is truly, it's just a joy to see what is accomplished. Okay, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. At this point, we also have an agreement with the University of Wisconsin-River Falls to share the cost of a special education paraprofessional for the 21-22 school year. This is going to be a benefit for our students who are there, and the cost of this will be shared between the school district and the university. So at this point, I'll take a motion to approve the service agreement with the University of Wisconsin-River Falls University Preschool to share the cost of a special education paraprofessional for the 21-22 school year as it's presented in the book.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there a second?
Also second.
Thank you, Amy. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. And now I'll turn it over to Ellen to summarize what we did during the Ed Program Committee.
Okay, we had a really good meeting on Monday, June 7th in the Media Center, and we had several presentations, some really good exchange. These committee meetings are always great opportunities for us as board members to learn a lot more about some of the activities and things that go on, to hear from our teachers, to get to know our teachers a little bit more, for them to get to know us a little bit better. We had several of those. So our English Language Learner Program is It's a significant effort. Every school district does this. I think people would be surprised at how many different languages are taught, are spoken by some of the families in this district, and we need to address that. So we had a very good presentation, had some good question and answer about that and how it works in our district. We didn't have to pass any action. That was for information only. Really appreciated the time of the staff who were there talking to us, and are appreciative of all the work that goes on in ELL. We also did the same with gifted and talented programming, talked about where we are with the program right now, what we're currently doing. We talked about some of our needs ongoing, and listened to some presentations from several people. Again, no action was necessary, it was informational only, but appreciated that as we continue to think about how we handle gifted and talented programming in the district as well. Then we had an update from Jennifer about the what we're calling the Learning Recovery Task Force, which is a group that's addressing the, trying to identify the learning gaps that were created during the pandemic, and how we might be able to address those going forward as a district. There's some really good thinking going on in that group that we should be able to implement starting later this summer and into the fall. We had a good discussion about that and had some suggestions for the group, et cetera. And then the action item that we had was approving some handbook changes for the elementary handbook, and those were not significant changes, but we moved and passed that as well. So I would move tonight that we accept and approve those elementary school handbook changes as a full board.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? The changes center primarily around teacher requests, around playground time. Was there a third?
Just clarify, when you say teacher requests, you mean
For
people requesting to, yeah, not that we're,
family, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true, family requests.
yeah. When I see that wording, it throws me off a little bit, but it's people requesting specific teachers.
Exactly, and the idea is that we want to be able to maintain the ability to balance our classes.
Yeah.
The third thing was just a change in the breakfast and lunch.
That's right, and that will be coming up now as we get into finance and facilities. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
And then one more thing about the next month, as I mentioned earlier to Jennifer, the Ed Programs Committee will meet at Greenwood. So we're trying to move some of these committee meetings around to some of our buildings so we get a better exposure to them. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you. Todd is the chair of Finance and Facilities, so I'll ask you to summarize.
So we got, I don't know if it was, we had the opportunity to tour the bus garage. I don't know if it was an opportunity to meet there, or it was certainly an eye-opening experience to have a meeting there and see the space that they're operating in. So we appreciated getting a chance to have a tour of that building and kind of see what needs exist there, because there's quite a few. So that was kind of the first part of it. We had a number of things on the agenda. Some of them were, the first one was in regard to approving the food service meal rates for 2021-22 year. There was a 10-cent increase in, I believe, across the board in all of the areas there, and we'll be asking for approval of that. Stacy, do we want to do all of these individually after I summarize, or do you want them all out as one?
I think that we should do them individually.
Okay, all right. So that was the first one, is there would be a 10-cent increase in the breakfast, lunch, and I believe there was a snack rate or a milk rate. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but the second item that we looked at was to approve our 21-22 budget. Chad, there's always a few working assumptions at this point in time. There's some unknown in regard to the state level budgeting when we're putting this together. This was a pretty educated draft of what that budget would look like, and we approved that as well. The one thing that I will note as we look at that budget, we do have some money coming in from support for CARES, but it doesn't look like we're going to be getting any per pupil increase based on the information that's come out in the last week and what was discussed at that meeting. It sounds like there might be a shift in how the money falls in terms of property tax versus state aid, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be any increase in talking with Chad. We've averaged, he figured, about $200 per year or per pupil per year over the last 10 years, and so to see zero is going to be a little bit of a shock to the system too. We're working towards managing that, but also not getting a lot of help from the state budget either. So.
It might be a good time to point out the fact that, Alan, you talked about the ideas that we have, that Jennifer's team has been putting forward in terms of recovery, academic recovery from the year, and that also deciding to go ahead with those will be on hold until we know about the state budget.
Yeah. So that was approved, and there'll be a little bit more as time goes on with some of those items as more becomes known, but we've got some preliminary numbers down. The third item that we took care of was finalizing the 2020-21 budget amendments and also approving fund balance. So our stated target is 25% of expenditures as fund balance, and we're going to end the year right around 26%. So we've met that commitment, and we approved the fund balance for year end. And then the next item after that was the amendments to the budget. Chad had presented a breakdown of all the individual categories and where we ended up for the final numbers. We also, I think it was by happenstance that we were at the bus garage, but we did approve our bus purchases for the year. There were 2 identical buses. I believe the cost was just over $97,000. We had 3 bids, and the lowest of the 3 bids was in the $97,000 range. So we buy 2 identical buses, and that's on here as an action item as well. I think
So-
that covered it.
Why don't you take 1, and then 2, 3, and 4 can be together, and then 5 separately.
Okay, so then I would make a motion first to approve the 2021-22 food service meal rates. Elementary, middle school breakfast at $1.70, lunch at $2.70, high school breakfast $1.70, lunch $3, snack $1.45, and adult breakfast $1.90, lunch $3.90.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amy. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Okay, so then I would move next to approve items number 2, 3, and 4. Number 2 being the 2021-22 budget. 3 and 4 approving fund balance from 2020-21 budget and approving the 2020-21 budget amendments.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Questions or comments?
Just a general comment about not about your action, but just about your comments about the budget and what the legislature's got cooking out there. This is serious. I don't know if anybody's tuned in or watching us tonight, but if anybody is out there, I would say you need to contact your legislator about this. There's a lot going on in Madison, and the partisan bickering is getting worse, and we're never quite sure where the chess play moves are, but for the last, Act 10 over 10 years ago really dug a deep hole for K through 12 education in Wisconsin, and we've been trying to dig out of that. And in recent years, as Todd mentioned, we've gotten some decent appropriations that have sort of helped us dig out of that hole, but we're still trying to do that. And it looked like with some of the federal funds coming this year, we were going to have some help for the learning recovery and those kinds of things that we're doing for this next year. And now it looks like with some of the maneuvering going on in Madison that we may not be able to get some of the funds that we've been counting on, and that's serious. So I don't want to point fingers at anybody at this point other than to say there's still time to take action, and I would encourage anybody out there to contact their legislator and look past just the constituent responses, letters that you're getting from your legislators, and put pressure on them to support public education in Wisconsin. So,
With ongoing money,
With
not
ongoing
simply the
money, yeah.
money that is going to be coming from
Yes.
individual funds from the federal government.
it's got to be there, and this is critical. This is really, really important, and I thought we were on track to get a reasonable settlement to the state budget this year with some aid to education and some tax relief and all those kinds of things. And just the last week or so, it's looked like this has really gone down a dark road. So anyway, I'm worried about it.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Okay, and then the last motion, I would move to approve the purchase of 2 buses per the bus replacement schedule. And again, those went through the bidding process, and we reviewed those at the committee.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. Questions or comments? This bus rotation schedule that we have in terms of purchasing buses is a really important way that we maintain a safe fleet for transporting our students.
One thing I will mention that came up at the meeting, completely ancillary, but I don't remember the exact measurements, but we're essentially limited to a specific length bus because they literally have about 6 inches, at most between those buses, and the next size up wouldn't be an option to us because we couldn't fit it in the building. And so it's one of those things that they say they park the buses close, but until you're there and somebody my size can't wiggle between them, you really find out how close they park the buses to each other.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Personnel, and Amy.
Okay, the Personnel Committee met on June 14th.
You gotta get into the microphone, please.
Personnel Committee met on, that sounds
Yep,
better.
that's fine.
June 14th. We have 3 different action items, but before that, we had an update on the certified staffing update. We discussed the supplemental staffing plan. So, and those we just discussed the supplemental staffing recommendations aligned to the Learning Recovery Task Force recommendations. And due to the uncertainty of the ESSER funds, that's on hold right now. The other thing that we did was we talked about proposed 2021-2022 handbook updates. And then we had a teacher training grant update and advanced learning grant updates. The other thing that we did was we approved job description revisions for the middle school assistant principal / activities director. It's going to go hand in hand. Elementary principal and the high school assistant principal for instructional leadership. So, and then last but not least, we went through and approved the 2021-2022 teacher collective bargaining agreements.
Okay.
So I would make the motion to do it one at a time, I think.
Sure, yes.
Approve the 2021-2022 employee handbook updates as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you for a second. That was from Todd. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
And then secondly, I would approve job description revisions for middle school assistant principal activities director, the elementary principal, and high school assistant principal instructional leadership.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Questions or comments?
So this was just a minor comment, but just so that we were on the same page or that everyone understands, they're only being tied together in this specific instance. It's not like in perpetuity, so when we hire a middle school assistant principal somewhere down the road, this isn't automatically attached to it. It's just this one specific case.
Exactly.
Correct.
But because
okay.
in effect in this one specific case, we need to make the adjustment.
Yep.
But a very good point, Todd.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
And then finally, I'd approve the 2021-2022 teacher collective bargaining agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Questions or comments?
You know, I would just say that, as usual, there's never enough. I just think our teachers, especially this last year, I really wish we could give them more. We're giving them a lot, and I think that I'm glad that we're able to carve out as much money as we have, but I think we just need to say publicly that it's never enough. Certainly after this last year, it's really tough when we can't give our teachers more than we are. So all the more reason, coming back to my budget comments earlier, as long as the state is withholding state aid from us, it's harder to build that into contracts and compensation and address all kinds of issues in our district. So anyway.
Exactly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Are there any proposed items for future board meeting agendas?
Sorry, I forgot to say in my,
Oh.
this is finance and facilities.
Sure.
In the minutes, I meant to make a note that we list Jamie as present, but I think it should say Jennifer was present, but Jamie was not, so.
Good catch.
I
Can you
meant
make
to,
that-
I meant to say that earlier, I'm sorry.
Thank you. You can make that adjustment. But Sterling was there, Jennifer's puppy.
He was snoring.
Okay, so we are going to schedule some upcoming meetings. And actually, there should be a special board meeting on here for
Next week?
June. There's another one that needs to be added here. Next Monday, June 28th, we will be meeting for a special Board of Education meeting to interview prospective candidates to fill the vacant board position. That will be beginning at 6 o'clock. And the meeting will take place at the district office. The Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, July 12th at 6 o'clock, and this meeting will be at, as Alan has already said, Greenwood Elementary School. The Personnel Committee will meet Monday, July 19th at 5 o'clock in the Media Center here in the high school. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, July 19th here in the auditorium. And at this point, I would like to have a motion to move into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 1985-1C, as well as 1985-1E, F, and G. Do we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Todd. I need a roll call. Bob?
Aye.
Alan?
yes.
Aye.
Amy?
Yes.
I'm saying yes.
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Cindy? Thank you, everyone. This portion of the meeting is concluded. Board members, we're just going to stay and have our conversation here in this space, but we'll take a few minutes because we need to shut down the mics and get on for the next thing. So, thank you, people, for coming.